playing and they are leaving. It's not present.
Maybe. But I'll call them at least, no? What do you mean?
The spectators are absolutely buzzing right now. Huge levels of excitement all around this ground. That's large. Square drive, cleanly struck. That's a shot from someone high on skill.
Textbook 6, timed well, under the ball, and it flew to the boundary. Awesome power.
They are not talking anymore.
End of a high-scoring over. Some lovely shot-making on display.
No, because we said 1 hour, but we took more than that.
Second innings. The right-on pace bowler is coming into attack from the Paddington end. Dug that out well. Nice, solid defensive shot. No. Terrible shot. Perfection. What a brilliant shot.
A textbook back foot shot. Anyone would be proud of that. It just flies.
I guess Shashank slept.
No point chasing that. Brilliantly timed off the back foot and races to the boundary.
Yeah, I guess he slept.
No point running for that one. It was a 4 the moment it left the bat. Beautiful shot off the front foot. You can't fault that shot. Nicely played. 4 runs all the way.
Oh my word, that's huge. Absolutely out the middle of the bat. A monster of a shot.
Yeah.
Just missed the line. Not the worst delivery, but that was put away with interest.
Didika, what will I do if there will be no discount till my birthday? I'll need to buy it anyway, no?
A very expensive over. Anderson, ready to start from the trees that our ancestors needed for food. They faced sure starvation. Real power behind that, and it's a massive maximum.
Mutation affects the way our body sees the ball pitch shorter, gets back fast to pull it away. Mutation allows us to convert sugar into fat for reason. Now, at the time, this mutation benefited as fruit trees died off and food got scarce. The mutation allowed us to wring more calories from food by converting it to fats to store for later. This extra fat was often the difference between starving and survival. Hence the term survival of the fats. But we don't live in that ancient environment anymore. And that once beneficial mutation seems to be fueling terrible health epidemics today, including skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, and even cancer. And that's not all. Sugar helped shape the modern world in other awful ways too, from slavery to the Holocaust. People talk sometimes about blood diamonds and other natural resources whose extraction causes huge misery. Well, today we're going to give the phrase blood sugar a whole new meaning.
That's going a long way. What a shot.
Barely seemed to hit it, and it's gone over the rope.
From the science history info, this is Sam Kane and the Disappearing Squid, a topsy-turvy sciencey mystery podcast. My, oh my, that's just flown off the middle.
Somehow the bowler's got to stop the rock. That's 12 from 2 now. And the batter really looking in the mood. Top-class innings, been playing very nicely out there and brings up the half-century.
Cane is technically a grass, although a grotesque one. It grows in big woody stalks like bamboo. Those stalks produce a remarkably sweet juice that, when you slice the cane open, you can suck right out. It's like balsam to get that onto the boundary.
This is a
From New Guinea,
masterclass
sugar
of
cane
batting.
slowly spread to
Reads the
India by
length,
350
gets forward,
BC.
dispatches it to the
There,
boundary.
people first crystallized the sugar by
Oh,
extracting
great
the
shot.
sweet juice and evaporating
Really
the
was
liquid.
an impressive shot. Good
So
timing
what did
and
people
driven
do
through
with
the
sugar
covers.
crystals in ancient times? Not what
Can't
you'd
afford to
expect.
go too full again. It
Some people
helps to
back then
switch
used
off your
sugar as a
beliefs,
medicine.
just to keep them guessing.
That's because it caused physiological reactions like a racing heart. We've all experienced
and that's
this
a
eating
special
candy as a
catch.
kid, but they considered it
In
manipulative.
the air and cover, takes
Other
an easy
cultures
catch.
classified sugar
Well,
as a
that was
spice.
an
So they
entertaining
used sprinkle
show
on
of
meat,
power
fish,
batting.
or a little candy.
Really put the bowlers to the
But
sword
that
for a
view of
while
sugar
there.
started to
But it's
change
all
when
come
sugar
to an end
drifted
now.
from India into the Arab world.
Perfectly timed.
The Arabs began
What
using
a
sugar
lovely
in ways
shot.
that we would
Thrown to
recognize
the
today
boundary.
in
That's
pastry
not the type of
and
ball
cakes
to
and
be
drinks.
bowling.
The English word
What a
candy
lovely
actually
shot.
comes from
Really
Arabic,
good timing.
as do
Race
syrup
to the
and
boundary.
soda. An Arabic poet in the 800s even introduced the notion that rich and
Nicely
some
driven again.
swallows better
Didn't
than
try to
others,
force it, just
that we
used
should eat
all the
savory food
timing at
first at
disposal.
meals and then save the
Gets the
sweet
boundary.
treats for the end. The Arabs eventually introduced their love of
Fantastic
sweets
shot.
into other
Gets
Muslim
forward,
cultures,
head over the
including
ball,
Moors, who conquered much
smashes
of
it
Spain
away.
and Portugal in the 700s. From there it spread into the rest of Europe, and Europeans loved sugar even more than the Arabs did. There was just one problem. Weather-wise, most of Europe is cool and dry, but sugarcane thrives best in heat and humidity, so Europeans who craved sugar had to import it. Plus, sugar crystals took ridiculous amounts of labor to produce. As a result, sugar was extremely expensive in Europe for centuries, a luxury good that only the rich could afford. So how did sugar transform from a luxury good into the cheap, mass-produced food of today? Through Christopher Columbus. After Columbus stumbled into the Americas in 1492, he realized that the climate in the Caribbean was perfect for sugar, hot and humid. Columbus actually brought the first sugarcane plants to the Americas on his return voyage in 1493. Not long afterward, Columbus's son Diego set up the first sugar plantations in the New World, in Jamaica. After that, sugar became a major driver of colonization, right up there with gold and silver. Merchants, in fact, called sugar white gold. Sugar also fueled slavery from Brazil up to Louisiana. At first, European colonizers enslaved American Indians to toil on plantations. Eventually, they kidnapped and enslaved millions of Africans. Millions upon millions. All that sugar then got shipped back to Europe, where people dumped it into coffee, into tea, into chocolate, products too bitter to consume in their natural state. Other sugar got fermented and distilled into rum. Overall, demand for sugar products skyrocketed, as did the profits. When we think of slavery on plantations today, most of us probably think of cotton or maybe tobacco, but those crops were always sidelines compared to sugar. On some Caribbean islands, 90% of enslaved people worked in sugar production.
Ah, that's
And it was
nice. Good
utterly brutal.
defense.
Sugarcane stalks are heavy, reaching 20 feet tall, and they had to be hacked down with machetes. Those rusty blades were a huge hazard given how hard and fast the enslaved people were forced to work. Heck, even the leaves on sugarcane stalks are surprisingly sharp and dangerous. They can slice your skin, break you open, or even poke an eye out to blind you. The work only got worse after harvesting, when sugar production started. Because they ooze sugar juice, cane stalks spoil quickly, often within a day. So enslaved people had to hurriedly drag them to refining stations.
Got 4 and that's racing to the boundary. No point in running.
Finds the middle of the bat. Great timing. Lovely front foot
Sticky,
shot.
boiling
Race to
sugar
the
juice
boundary.
all over and spattered and often scalded. Even worse were the wooden rollers
Onto the front
crush
foot.
the
Super
stalks
shot.
and
Could be
squeeze the
4.
juice out.
That was a really solid
These
shot.
rollers
Read
weighed
the length
hundreds
early,
of
got
pounds
onto
and
the
were
front
often
foot,
driven by
and it
cattle
raced away
horses
for
and
4.
As a result, the rollers were not easy to stop. Not surprisingly, these machines caused serious and sometimes fatal
Nice
injuries.
shot.
And
Straight
they
to the bowler
contributed
though.
greatly to the
No
fact
run.
that the average
Ouch! What
lifespan
a
of an
catch!
enslaved person in a
Wow!
sugar
Brilliant
plantation
reactions
was
and
just
what a
8
catch!
years.
An innings that promised much and really, in the end, delivered
Meanwhile,
very
the
little.
people in New
Pretty
York
disappointing
and London
all
and
round.
Paris kept guzzling their sugary coffee and tea, happily oblivious.
Great shot. It was a good length to try that. And they did with maximum results. 6 more.
all the way, got it right
After
out
the
of the
rise of
middle.
cheap slave labor in the 1800s, the price of cane sugar rose.
Getting nicely
As a result,
settled at the
people
crease
began
now
looking
would
for
have been
other sources of
very
sugar.
happy with that.
One
Love
alternative that
shot.
emerged was sugar beets, which can grow in colder climates. And here's where the Nazis enter the story. The Nazis poured tons of money into
Too
subsidizing
full
the
and
German
gets punished
sugar
for
beet
it.
industry.
Fine shot.
This was
4 more.
partly to win
You
support of
can't
the
fault the
farmers,
bowling,
and
but
partly
sometimes
to
your
boost
opponent
German
is
agriculture.
just too good.
But it was also
Wonderful
partly
perfect
because
shot.
Adolf
There was no
Hitler
point chasing
was an
that.
absolute sugar fiend. The stories about Hitler and sugar are
That's a massive shot. That's going 12 deep into the crowd.
With most people,
Just
you
missed
ask
the
how much
line.
sugar
Not
they
the
want
worst
in tea.
delivery, but that was
With Hitler,
dispatched
it was the
with
other way around.
interest.
How much tea
Everyone just watched
sugar?
that in awe.
He would fill whole teacups with sugar cubes and add just enough tea to make a brown
Kishan
gray
has already got the big
How
shot.
much sugar?
Now they can just
Full
focus on
cup.
playing the next ball.
Full cup?
On top of that, Hitler gorged himself on cream pies all the time.
Straight drive.
Why he would do that?
One off.
That was a boundary the moment the ball left the bat. Can't time that any better.
In his
Perfection.
last pathetic days in a bunker in Berlin, several of Hitler's teeth were rotting out.
Raw.
He
Shouldn't
would
be too
nevertheless
worried about
mash
that.
pieces of
That
cake into
last
tiny
ball, they got them
bottles
playing their
and
shots.
gum them down to get his sugar.
Just need to stick to the
All of
plans
which is
now.
pretty glorious. But there's a
Couldn't
chill
have hit that
inside to the
any
Nazi
better.
obsession with sugar, too.
That was a lovely strike down
When
the
you extract
ground.
sugar from beets,
Managed
certain
so
side products are
easily.
left over. One side product is a
That last
slimy
ball
goo
isn't
called
something you want a
schlumber.
repeat of. You don't
Now,
want to be
schlumber
giving
wasn't too
easy runs
remarkable by
away.
itself. But if you heated this goo in a closed vessel, you could
It's gone a
produce cyanide.
long way.
It just so
Heave
happened
that
that the
over
Nazis
square
were in
for
the market
6.
for cyanide.
Well, that's a
in the
waste of a
1930s.
delivery. Absolutely no trouble
That's
getting
because
onto it.
cyanide was the
Dispatching
basis
it
of
for 6.
Cyclone B,
End of a
the
very
gas
good over
used
to
in
the
the death
batter.
chambers of the Holocaust. The sugar industry, in other words, was a vital cog in the Nazi death
There's a
machine.
chance with a direct hit.
So far, we've talked mostly about the evil effects of the sugar industry. But the sugar molecule itself also has plenty to answer for in the way it's helped ruin our diets. Now, that judgment might sound a bit harsh, especially because, for a few decades now, governments have warned us that saturated fat is the real enemy in our diets. This demonization of fat began with a famous study in the mid-1900s that seemed to show a correlation between saturated fats and heart disease. The more fat people ate, the worse their hearts looked. It seemed pretty damning. And admittedly, the connection does make intuitive sense. You eat fat, you get fat, right? But however intuitive, that's just too simplistic. Our bodies are not just passive storage containers where we absorb whatever we eat and just tuck it away
And what a
somewhere.
shot that is. Into
Our
his
bodies
slot.
are
Great
actually
timing and
active
balance.
chemical
It'll be a maximum.
laboratories. We
Not
take what
standing
we
on ceremony
ingest
this
and we
time.
transform it
Brilliantly hit.
inside our
And
body.
over the boundary for
And
6.
scientists now know that one of the key transformations takes place inside the liver, where sugars get alkalized to
Track.
fat.
Head was
We
completely
can see
still and they
glimpses of
struck
this
that
happening
hard,
in animals.
high and long.
Starches
A
and
6.
cellulose are also sugars,
Managed to get onto the
albeit
front
more
foot
complex
early and just
forms.
incredible
And think
power
about what
to
cows
loft
and
it
pigs
over the
must do.
boundary rope.
Grasses, grains, and so on. You ever seen a skinny pig?
Tremendous. Great shot.
Similarly, cows eat virtually
You
no
can't
fat,
fault the
yet they
bowling.
have no trouble
Sometimes your
packing
opponent is just too good.
livers naturally
That is a
convert
beautiful
starch and
front foot shot.
cellulose
No
into fat.
point in chasing that one.
The bottom line is, with mammals, it's not simply fat in, fat out. Inside our livers, it's more like
That's a good shot. It's just full of
fat
class.
out.
Just open the face of the bat on
But
impact
what
and
about
it
that
goes
famous
all
study
the
that
way.
showed the links between heart disease and fat intake?
Stokes,
Well, in
I don't think,
retrospect, it
will be
has
too
some
happy
flaws.
with their bowler.
The study
at the moment.
looked at the diets of people in 7 countries, but it missed countries like France, where people consume
Oh,
large
that's
amounts of
hard.
fat but have low rates of heart trouble. So again, fat in, fat out does not hold up. Plus, an Italian scientist later scrutinized the study's raw data. And while there was a correlation between heart disease and eating fat in certain countries, he found an even stronger correlation between heart disease and
I
eating
could be
sugar.
safe.
That was
It's
a
the same
brilliant
for
boundary.
diabetes.
Really well timed.
Several studies
And
show
now
that sugar
starting
can
to
cause
score
insulin
quickly.
resistance,
End
which
of the
can then
over,
lead
some
to
good power
diabetes.
hitting there.
In addition,
Ready to
obesity is
start.
a
Bring the
major
Paddington
risk
in.
factor for diabetes, and obesity correlates strongly with sugar intake. In
Picks
the
the
United
gap
States, for
perfectly.
instance, 12% of the population was
Outstanding
obese
shot.
in 1950.
Saw it early,
And
not
number
much
3
width
got
to
the
play
15%
with, and
right
drove it
today.
through the
Here's
covers
the
for
US
4.
government recommended
Top
people
class
stop
inning has been
and
playing very nicely out there
following
and
that
brings up the
recommendation,
half
many
century.
food manufacturers removed fats from food and started dumping in sugar instead. After that, obesity rates exploded.
Collects that one as simple as you like, inside the ring.
30% in 2000. Today, that number is closer to 42%. And 70% of American adults overall are overweight. Diabetes rates have tripled since 1980.
Onto that early, that could be 4.
Meanwhile, sugar consumption has
A
risen
lovely
in
drive
lockstep.
through the covers.
Instead of sugar
No
cane or
need
sugar
for the
beets,
fielders to
most
move.
people ingest sugar
That
today via
race
corn
is
syrup,
away
and
to
we
the
ingest
boundary.
all
A
lots.
beautiful shot off
According
the
to
front
one
foot.
report,
Textbook
the average
shot.
American consumes the equivalent of 130 pounds of sugar
My word,
every
they've
year.
gotten all of that. It'll sail way back into the stands.
As others have
Well,
pointed
that's
out,
just textbook.
imagine
A bit of
going to the
power as
grocery
well
store,
to lift the
picking
ball
up
over
a
the top.
5-pound
It just keeps
bag of
going.
sugar and guzzling 26 of those. That's almost Hitler level consumption. Of course,
Got
some of
forward
you
and
are
that's
probably
racing
screaming
to the
right now
boundary. No
that
point
just
in running.
because sugar consumption
Just
correlates
perfection.
with obesity and
Magnificent
diabetes,
shot.
that
You
doesn't mean
just
sugar
can't hit it
causes
any
those
better than
problems.
that. Racing away to the
But
boundary.
here is where we get back to that mutation I mentioned at the start of the show. The mutation involves an enzyme called uricase.
Stand and
All animals
deliver.
have some version of
Holds
the
the
gene
pose as
produced
the ball
themselves.
goes straight over the
But
bowler.
roughly
6
15
more.
million years ago, the gene
Just a little
mutated
bit of
in a
room and
shaggy,
power was
ape-like
immense.
animal.
It's flown over the
Normally, the
boundary.
uricase enzyme
Smashed
interacts with a
all over the
chemical
park. I
called
wonder if the
uric
captain will stick
acid,
with them.
which is a
The
waste
right-arm
product
fast bowler is
produced
coming
from
into the attack
metabolized
from the
food.
Randwick end.
Uricase breaks uric
Nice
acid
shot.
down.
Cut away, running
And the
towards the
mutated
boundary. That'll
version
take
breaks
some
down
chasing.
uric acid
You just
much
can't
more
hit it
slowly.
any better than that.
As a
Beautiful
result, uric
delivery.
acid
No
builds up in
chance
the
for the
blood.
fielders.
Now, the biochemical details here can get pretty gnarly, but without going into too much detail, when the uric acid
Classic cover
builds up in the
drive
blood,
that finds the
the
fielder at
liver
cover.
converts sugars to fats at higher rates. This also causes us to store more fat in the body. Now again, 15 million years ago, when fruit was getting scarce, turning sugars into fats was a good
Cuts
thing.
it away.
Prevents
Finds the
starvation.
man just behind
But
point.
in a world awash with cane sugar and beet sugar and corn sugar, we really don't need something telling our livers to store more sugar as fat. This once vital mutation is now dead. Especially when we consider the links between sugar and cancer. To be clear, sugar doesn't cause cancer. Cancer
Finds the
arises from
fielder with
genetic
that shot.
mutations that drive cells to reproduce like mad. But once a tumor develops, sugar makes things far worse. Sugar causes spikes of insulin in the blood, and insulin essentially acts like crystal meth.
Shot. Real power behind
It
that. And
revs
it's a
tumor cells up
massive
and sends them
maximum.
into frenzied
That's worth the
activity.
ticket money alone.
You can
It's
see
flown
these
into the
results in
crowd. A
autopsies.
brilliant shot off the
When
front
old people
foot.
die in their sleep in doctor's autopsy,
I'd like to see them
the
aimed
doctors
at the top
often
of
find
off
a
now.
small
As a bowler,
tumor
you've
in the
always got to
breast
make
or
them play
prostate
on
tumor.
your terms.
It's still cancer, but the tumor was so sluggish that it didn't kill.
My, oh my, that's just
Insulin,
flown off the middle.
makes
This is
sluggish
just
cancers
silly.
much
The
more
power on
aggressive.
that shot
The
is
tumor moves
incredible.
far more rapidly and does
Playing
far
all
more
their shots
damage.
in that over
So
a
instead of
very
people dying
expensive over.
with cancer, people who consume too much sugar might die of cancer. Sugar also helps cancer in other ways. Our bodies actually have a natural defense system to kill cancer cells by denying them food and starving them. But if your blood sugar is too high, cancer cells can evade that
That was
system
just
and
an
keep
awesome
growing.
delivery. With
Sugar
class
also
and
helps
patter.
cancer
And the umpire
metastasize,
says
or
that's the
spread
first
throughout
of
the body.
two.
When cancer cells metastasize, they detach from the original tumor, enter the bloodstream, and reattach in a different
Goodness
organ.
me, that's a
That
terrific
initial
shot.
reattachment
Couldn't get
is
down.
very
That's why it's very much required to not eat after
That was a
5-6
boundary the
p.m.
moment the ball left
and
the
eat
bat.
next day only.
But again, if
Now you
blood sugar
understand?
and insulin levels are high, the reattached cells can siphon off enough food to survive and
And
reproduce.
what a shot that
And
is.
eventually
Into his
keep
slot.
growing.
Great timing and balance. It'll be a maximum.
That just drifted a
Given
bit
the links
and
between
pounced
sugar,
on.
obesity, and
High
cancer,
and
I
mighty.
have heard
They'll be
people
really
grumble.
happy with that.
If sugar suddenly appeared in the market today, there is no way the FDA would approve it. In fact, there's a chance that we'll look back on our sugar consumption nowadays, those jumbo pops and jumbo candy bars, with the same horror that we look back on Mad Men era folks drinking martinis for breakfast and washing it down with a pack of cigarettes. Now, I don't want to be a killjoy Will having a popsicle in the summertime or a candy bar during a movie destroy your life? Of course not. But the human costs of sugar have always been high, and that trend continues today. You might not buy that sugar is the evilest molecule in the world, but I bet you'll never hear the phrase blood sugar in quite the same way again.
That's a massive shot. That's going 12 deep into the crowd. That was just an unbelievable shot. Middled it, and it flew over the boundary. Brilliant stuff.
This is the Disappearing Spoon podcast, brought to you by the Science History Institute. Find out more about their library, museum, and multimedia magazine at sciencehistory.org. Make sure you check out the Science History Institute's other awesome podcasts, Distillations. You can find their in-depth narrative stories and interviews about everything from space junk to sex, drugs, and migraines, anywhere you get your podcast, and on their website, distillations.org. You can find more incredible stories from my books at samkeen.com. You can also book me as a speaker at your school or
That's a good shot. It's just
if you like this podcast, please support it at patreon.com/disappearingspoon. It costs as little as 7 cents per day. You can also get bonus episodes and signed books. Please spread the word to others as well, and subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, or other places.
Great shot.
This episode was written by me, Sam King. It was mixed by Jonathan Pfeffer and produced by Mariel Carr, Rigoberto Hernandez, and Padmini Raghunath.
Who is Padmini Raghunath written by?
Yes.
Shot. That's so beautifully played. Will clear the fielder and the boundary. Pandya, 6 of your best, please. It's flown into the crowd. To get that much power coming forward on the front foot is ridiculous. Oh my word, that's huge. Absolutely out the middle of the bat. A monster of a shot. Lovely shot. Gets on the drive and powers that one over the boundary. Wonderful timing. Couldn't have played that any better. That was another big shot. 16 now of the last 3 deliveries. Really means business. Another well-timed shot that races to the boundary. Closing in on the century now. The right armour is coming into the attack from the Paddington end. Through rack. Head was completely still and they struck that hard, high and long for 6.
Just waited on it, got given a bit of width and launched it all the way.
Gone for it, but the batter hasn't timed that well and it's gone straight up. This might be gone.
Full and good night. Just leant on that, didn't have to do much, and got 4.
As his plane circle recently liberated Dachau concentration camp, Dr. Leo Alexander could see the former inmates cheering and waiting. They had good reason to cheer. American planes often brought food for prisoners, like corned beef and potato salad. The planes also brought doctors in to tend to the sick. But Dr. Alexander did not come.
Shot. Real power behind that, and it's a massive
Exactly 75
How
years
easy was that?
May
A
19.
pickup drive.
He was there
all
to
the way
tear
to
the scab
6.
of Nazi code and expose some of the worst atrocities of World War II. Horrific medical experiences in concentration camp prison. Up to that point, the Allies had heard rumors about such research, but no one could confirm anything. That task fell to Alexander, a chubby, balding, bespectacled army psychiatrist
Misses
who had
everything.
expelled from Nazi
End of the
Germany.
over, some good power hitting there. Wood
For
ready
unknown
to
reasons,
start.
the Army
from
gave
the London
Alexander
end.
just 6 weeks to investigate the atrocities, from mid-May to the end of June. And in many ways, it was a no-win.
Batter seems almost offended the
If
fielding
he
team
failed
went
in
up
his
to that.
mission,
Will they refer it?
unprecedented crimes might remain hidden forever. If he
Simple
succeeded.
as you like.
Well,
Didn't bother to look at more than one delivery
because
in the
then
over.
he and the rest of the
Well,
world
the end of
had
an
to live
entertaining
with the
performance
knowledge
with the
of
bat.
cruel
Certainly a
that
good
one
wicket to
human
get.
being can
The
miss.
runs were really starting to flow.
Either way, as his plane passed Dhaka and descended toward me, Alexander
Bowler and
moved
stick
at the
Gordon
groove he
very
needed to
confident.
expose the knots somewhere down the board.
England having a good chat with his captain. Not sure this one is worth a review. May as well try your luck.
I'm Sam,
Well, this could spell
and you're
trouble.
listening to The Disappearing Score, a topsy-turvy, science-y history podcast.
I'm not hearing anything on this. This could be trouble.
Real story.
Wasn't the best of reviews. Great call by the umpire, though.
Alexander opened his investigation into the atrocities by interviewing Nazi scientists.
Great shot. It was a good length to try that. And they did with maximum results.
Germany had
6
lost
more.
thousands of
Just
pilots
missed the
and
line.
sailors
Not the worst
who were
delivery,
deceived.
but that was put away with
So
interest.
researchers have reportedly been submerging inmates in Dachau in ice and chilling them.
Head over the ball. Great shot. That's racing away.
And test new methods.
Sometimes you just got to stop and admire
When
batting
Alexander
like
tried
that.
to pin the
Gets onto
scientists
the front
down,
foot early,
they proved
well
amazing.
timed, 4
They admitted to
runs.
submerging guinea pigs in ice. They prattled on and on about all they'd learned from such work.
That's
Whenever
a
Alexander
massive
asked
shot.
about
That's going
experimental
12 deep into the crowd.
the Germans
The
planned
bowler watches
and
that one go
swore
straight back over their head for 6.
One
Brilliant shot.
scientist, however, did concede to running
Just need to
experiments.
keep it simple.
And
Line and length.
this piqued
Around about that
Alexander
off stump will force a
because
mistake.
he'd recently seen a strange watercolor painting of a nearby instrument.
No point running for that one. It was a 4
The painting showed equipment
the
for
moment it
submerging
left the bat.
pigs in
Beautiful
ice.
shot off the front foot. The timing on that was just fantastic. Straight back at the bowler.
He did experiment on animals?
Given their size and flavor, pigs were
No, I'm saying he did experiment on animals, this doctor.
Back into the stands.
Textbook
Alexander
6
knew that
timed well under the ball and it flew to the boundary. Awesome power.
Submerge matlab? And
but the scientists
Listen with the please.
Oops, that's very, very high. Don't think anyone is close, though.
because the equipment had another incident.
No need to run for that one.
submerge with this liquid that melts them.
Submerge means put underwater.
What will happen for that?
Always difficult to focus after what
By
happened
G.
last ball.
Sure, can you
Just
listen
gotta
for
stay
episode and ask
positive
questions?
and
You will
believe
understand.
the wicket will come.
They
That's
arrived
a
at
good
the
shot.
end.
It's just full of
Scientists there
class.
tried to
Just
distract
open the face of the bat and impact and it goes all the way.
This has been a great
Irritated with
knock.
their game,
Using all
Alexander
the shots
finally
available,
cut.
plenty of boundaries,
Where
and not
was the
really
pig?
giving the bowlers much of a look in.
The
Wonderful
Germans
100.
finally led him outside and showed him two
The boundary
cracked
last delivery,
tubs
is it a
behind
sign
the
they're
stake.
trying to push the run rate
This
now?
was all that remained. To Alexander, the contrast was telling.
Stand
The
and
equipment for
deliver.
submerging rodents
Holds the
had
pose as the ball goes
But the
straight
bigger
over the bowler. 6
equipment
more.
they painted pictures of.
Somehow
They
the
were so
bowler's got
proud.
to stop the rock. That's 12 from 2 now.
Anything
The
capable of
batter
holding a
really
human
looking
being
in the mood.
was missing. This and other clues reinforced Alexander's suspicion that the Nazis
That's
played
going a long way. What a shot.
This is getting silly now.
If he
Another
spooked the
6.
Germans, they
Just
might destroy
brilliant
more
power
than
hitting.
So he pretended to be satisfied
Tried for
with
something
their
a little bit different that last delivery. The captain shouldn't mind
Then,
that. If they get it
having
right,
exhausted
they
his
might
leave
just
to
get the wicket.
He hopped back in his chair
Times
and
through the
began
leg
making his way
position,
hundreds of
racing into the
miles.
boundary.
Too wide. There to be
He had
hit,
more
really
scientists to
given the
interview in
treatment.
the town of Good. It was already early June. He had just 1 month left, and he'd picked up nothing so far but bad feeling. Given Alexander's bittersweet
Power
memories of June,
and precision in
Germany
that shot.
bombed out
A lovely shot off the back foot. No joy with the
He
short
was
ball.
born in
And
Vienna
going
in
for
1905 to a well-to-do Jewish
Yes,
family.
it can be very
And he had an
disheartening seeing
idyllic
good
childhood.
deliveries smacked around. Sometimes, though, you just have
The
to accept
Alexander
it
family
and
estate
move
had
on.
peacocks running around.
What a delivery.
Sigmund Freud and Gustav Mahler were regular guests. As a young man, Alexander followed his father
Trudge
into
back
medicine,
to the
and he soon
pavilion.
won a
A
prestigious
disappointing
job.
display in the end for someone with
His
such
career
skill.
was
This
taking
goes down as a failure.
and then it all came crashing down. In 1932, His father was murdered in the street by a former mental patient, a senseless and random act. A few months later, the Nazi Party seized power in Germany and began purging Jews from government posts, including Elf. Lucky for him, Alexander was on sabbatical in China when the purge began. But he was now stable.
Lovely shot.
He
Rocks
sailed to
back
the
and
United
puts it
States
away.
this summer.
Timing on that shot was
He
just
settled near
perfect.
Boston
Brilliant
and
shot.
began
The
working at a
boundary the
psychiatric.
moment it hit the bat.
By the late 1930s, he was teaching neurology at Harvard Medical School. When World War II erupted, he joined the army and treated soldiers for shell
Good
shock in
shot.
England.
A beauty.
And after Germany's defeat, he
That's
expected
just
to
the
return
start
to
you want. An
Massachusetts.
awesome shot.
But he was suddenly
Flown over
plucked
the
over the
boundary.
reins by Allen officials.
This has
Given
been
his
a
background,
great over
he was
so far.
considered the
2 boundaries
perfect
from it.
person
The
for
runs are
solving
flowing
tough
very
medical
easily.
issues. So far, though, Alexander's mission was solved.
Shot. That's so
They did not
beautifully
reveal
played.
Lucky
Will
Grace,
clear the
and
fielder
his dogged persistence.
and the boundary. David, 6 of your best, please.
The first Lucky
That's
Grace
a brilliantly aggressive shot. Gets on the front foot and it flies over the boundary.
Alexander stopped by a military base for dinner.
Huge shot. That's a
He happened to
massive
sit
shot.
down
Just
next to an
incredible.
army chaplain.
It was a
who
short
messed.
ball, but seen
Hey,
really
Doc, let
quickly.
me ask you something.
Onto the back foot and powered over the boundary
Chaplain
for
mentioned
six.
that he recently heard a
Playing
radio
all their
broadcast
shots in
about
that
some
over.
medical
A
experiment
very
in
expensive
Iowa,
over.
including reports of people being held down in tubs of ice water. Alexander
2 straight, and they've helped that
some
on its way
purely
for
symptom
6
of the experiment.
runs. Fine shot.
4 sixes in a row. It's proving too easy
Committed
right
a
now.
name
There's
to the
more to come.
charge. Did the broadcast mention any names yet? Yeah, the chaplain.
Gone. That's one for online. Square leg taking a ripper.
Check.
Super catch.
Alexander pushed, but Chaplin simply couldn't. It was another dead. Or at least
England
it would have.
will be very happy with that
When
wicket. This has been
Alexander
a
played this
fantastic
part,
innings.
all was work when he
New
arrived
batter
in
at the
Goodwood
crease
and
will look
started
settling
interrogating
quickly and get
scientists.
stuck into their
I know
work.
all about the Dachau broadcasting. Who was experimenting on humans? Suddenly, a
Bang!
name
Caught that, says the batter first ball, and launches the ball into the crowd.
Thrasher was an
The
air
bowler
force
just has to
and
watch
an
that one
nasty
sail
piece of
straight back over his head. Brilliant
bait.
shot. Deserves 6.
In one interview, Alexander heard about Rasher getting drunk at a conference and taunting him for science.
Nice shot, straight
That
to the bowler,
scientist had written
no
a book
run.
on
Oh,
human
that's a super
physiology,
catch by
but his
Middle.
data
Nicely
came
done.
from research on the road.
And
Rusher got
gone.
a
That's a
great
fantastic catch.
Well, fantastic wicket. Kept the runs down.
I can be
Really
only
didn't
versus
get
full
settled and looked to be in
knows
trouble for
human
most of the knock.
because I experiment.
Time that perfectly.
He was actually
Well,
bragging.
that was a poor ball. You really can't bowl
Rasher
like
was the
that.
first
Got
real
what it
lead
deserved.
Alexander had. And a
This
tiny
is
clue
a
about it soon
masterclass
broke.
of batting.
Wide
Reads the length, gets forward,
Brett
dispatches
sparked
it
something
to the
uncommon
boundary.
this holiday season with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods.
Nicely
Busy
driven
holiday
again.
season
Didn't try
is,
to force
but
it, just used
Uncommon
all
Goods
the
makes it
time
less
at its
stressful
disposal.
with incredible
Gets the boundary.
hand-picked gifts that spark joy,
That
wonder,
showed
and
great
delight
skill.
for everyone on
Lovely
your list.
timing, and the boundary
Uncommon
was the
Goods
only place it
scours
was
the
heading.
globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable items. Science lovers can find the Experiment
Wow,
Today Science
missed a
Advent
lot.
Calendar or spinning topological globes of Mars and the Moon. There's periodic table-themed seasonings, petri dish areas, and more. Plus, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you are supporting artists and small independent businesses.
Gone. Caught.
Many of their products are made in small batches, so shop
Away,
now
but
before they
straight
sell
to
out.
point for the
To get
easy catch.
15% off your next
Find
gift,
themselves
go to
7 wickets down. It's
uncommonGoods.com
about now you need
slash
someone to
That's
stand up and stick around
uncommonGoods.com
at the
slash
crease.
for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer.
Times that shot to
Uncommon
perfection.
Goods are all
You
out
can't
of the
fault that
ordinary.
shot.
Sure was an air
Nicely
force.
played. 4 runs
But one
all the
interview
way.
subject slipped up. Mentioned that Rasher also
Don't need
did
to do anything
research
special.
for the
Line and length,
SS,
still the key.
a Nazi security agent. Now, this probably seemed like small, bureaucratic minutia.
Gone. Great
Except
catch.
the very
Quick
next day,
reactions.
Alexander heard something intriguing.
Great take by Gully. Would have
The
fantastic
Allies
with the
had
fielding.
recently
The bowler
completed
is
a cave in
ecstatic.
Moscow.
Another one.
Inside that
8
cave,
wickets gone.
they found
You
the
feel it's
secret
just a
archive
matter of time
of
now.
Heinrich
A
Himmler,
few decent
longtime
deliveries
head of
could
the
see the
SS.
end.
So, determined to hunt down every lead,
Collects that one simple as you like.
Alexander drove
Inside the ring.
hundreds of miles to Heidelberg, where the archives had been moved. only to realize, when he got there, that the archives were a total mess. Himmler turned out to be a pack,
5 runs added
incessantly
in the
preserving
over.
every scrap of paper that passed through his feet.
350.
Most of them were marked up with
Work
his signature.
ready to start from the Paddington end.
How would they ever find any? No doubt it was another day.
Classic cover drive, but
But
finds the fielder
they
at cover.
started it. And around June 18th, Alexander broke the seal on a packet of papers blandly named Case Number 707. He would later compare what he discovered inside to a dark German fairy. A land where,
Doesn't
quote,
beat the
the
infield.
Nazis had taken special pains in making practically every nightmare come true. Case number 707 confirmed that Rasher was every bit as nasty as his colleagues claimed. He never wanted to experiment
Oh
on
my word,
big,
that's huge!
Air Force
Absolutely
officials
out the middle of the bat. A monster of
so
a shot.
Rasher turned.
Just a little bit of room given, and the power was immense.
Rasher's
That's
wife,
flying
Nina,
over the
the
boundary.
former SS secretary,
Getting nicely
actually
settled
had
at the
close
crease now.
ties
Would have been
with
very happy with that last
so
shot.
much so that Himmler allegedly fathered the Rasher's first child. Despite this humiliation,
Real
Rasher
power
sucked
behind
up
that,
to Himmler
and it's
in order
a
to win
massive
permission
maximum.
for his research on
How
humor.
clean did they
And
hit
amid Himmler's
that?
case,
Plays
Alexander found
immaculately
reports
the straight bat.
outlining all that Rasher had done. It was a ghastly
Needs a
picture.
dot ball.
Hundreds had died overall, dozens while being held down in icebergs, often while naked. Others were deliberately wounded with blades or injected with pus, or put into low-pressure chambers until the blood vessels in their brain. Now, I understand that hearing about these atrocities
That's a massive shot. That's going
but I
12
do think
deep
it's
into the
important.
crowd.
Showing that they mean business
So if
this
you
innings.
are interested
Barely
in
seem to have got going
made
in
a
the hitting
spin-off
sixes.
episode
Smashed
available at
all over the park. I wonder if the captain will stick with them.
patreon.com/disappearing.
Wood having a fine day out. Brilliant
More
bowling so
important,
far.
the spin-off
And just
episode
missed the one
explores the
for a
ethical
fiver.
dilemmas that modern doctors face with this research.
Huge shot.
Because some of
That's
this
a
Nazi
massive
data
shot. Just
could actually
incredible.
help save lives.
Managed to get onto the front foot early
So,
and just
should modern
incredible
doctors
power
ignore
to
the data,
loft it over
given
the
its
boundary
tainted
rope.
origin? Or should they use the
I
data
don't
to
think
save
will be
lives?
too happy with their
It's
bowler
not an easy
at
choice.
the moment.
Visit patreon.com/disappearing spoon to hear
Super shot that.
Just perfection. A magnificent
Dr.
shot. You
Alexander
just
at least
can't
now
hit it
had
any better
hard
than that.
evidence of trust.
Racing away to the boundary.
And, running out of time, he hurried back south again to confront some of the scientists he'd interviewed before, the ones who lied. This time, they didn't get away with it.
Lovely cover drive, but straight to extra cover.
Confronted with hard evidence, they had no choice but to confess what they knew, information that didn't appear elsewhere. In Munich, he also tracked down former inmates at Dachau, gathering more clues. Based on what they told him, he raced back to the document center to think further.
Power and
All in all,
precision
he
in that shot.
hundreds upon
You
hundreds
can't
of
fault the
runs, pushing
bowling.
back and forth
Sometimes
with
your
his
opponent is just
piecing
too
together
good.
what had
That is a
happened.
beautiful front foot shot.
Without
No point in
Alexander's
chasing
dogged
that one.
detective, years might have passed before the archived records of the atrocities came to light. Crucial witnesses might have died in
Quick
the
onto
field,
that in the
and
infield.
dreadful secrets would have died with them. At the end of June, Alexander was summoned back to London to summarize his findings on Nazi atrocities. He ended up typing out 1,500 pages. Then he submitted those documents to help prosecute more criminals at the Nuremberg
16
doctor
runs
strike
added
in
there.
1946.
Mumbai are
Now, the
386
doctor's trial was
for 8.
frustrating on some level. Despite Alexander's reports, 2 of the doctors he exposed were acquitted in Nuremberg.
He hit
and
that
others
one
never faced
hard.
trial.
No need to run. Lovely
Among other
compact form there.
The defense lawyers
That
pointed
was
out
a really
that no
solid shot.
international
Read the length early, got onto the front foot, and it raced away for the 4.
What's more, the experiments were technically legal under German law. That's because, unlike monkeys, dogs, and
Stand
horses,
and deliver.
the Third Reich
Holds
did
the
not protect Jews and
pose as the
prisoners.
ball goes
They
straight
came
over the
to
bowler.
research.
6 more.
That's worth the
However,
ticket money
several
alone.
top
It's
Nazi
thrown
doctors
into the
were
crowd.
convicted
A
and
brilliant
hanged
shot
in
off the
Nuremberg.
front foot.
And probably the worst offender, Zygmunt Rascher, had already faced justice, albeit in a twisted
Good shot.
way,
And it's found the gap.
because he and his wife Nina
Finds the
had
middle of the
already
bat.
been
Great
executed.
timing. Lovely front foot shot that raced to the
And to
boundary.
learn why Himmler turned on Rascher and the
It's
fraudulent
almost
scientific scheme
palpable, the
that cost
excitement
Roger his
emanating
life.
from this crowd
You
at the
can
moment.
listen to the spin-off bonus episode for this podcast. Visit patreon.com/disappearing.
Oh, what a shot that is. Pick the bones out of that and it's gone for 6.
Suffice it to say that
Well,
Rogers'
that's
fraud
just textbook
angered
and a bit of
Himmler.
power as
Himmler
well to
no
lift the
longer
ball
trusted
over the top. It just
Himmler
keeps
also knew
going.
that Germany was losing the war, and he wanted to destroy all evidence of the barbaric medical experiments.
They picked the gap.
And it
Perfect
was
timing. Solid shot.
Imagine
Really
a
well
world
played.
where
Ball was just a little
got away
short.
with everything.
And that was a great shot off
Atrocities
the back
unexplained,
foot.
the reputations unscathed. It seems outrageous, yet this could have happened.
Oh,
if
super
not for
shot.
Alexander.
That races
Frankly,
away to the
Alexander was
boundary.
an
A beautiful
unlikely
shot off the
military
front
hero.
foot.
Chubby,
Textbook stuff.
nearsighted,
That was a boundary the
and
moment
the
the
work
ball
had
left the
not
bat.
been glamorous.
Timed to
Driving
perfection.
hundreds of miles
End of the
on
over, some
long
good power hitting there.
scrounging up clues from
Stokes, the
paintings,
right arm medium
slogging
bowlers
through
coming into the
mountains
attack
of
from the
dreary
Randwick end.
bureaucratic papers. But without him, some of the greatest crimes in modern
Couldn't
history
get it through the field.
might never have come to light. And however frustrating it is that certain Nazi doctors escaped punishment at the Nuremberg trial, Alexander did ensure they wouldn't escape the judgment of history.
Dives and takes a nice catch.
Alexander helped
What a
future
catch.
abuse. Again, several Germans at the Nuremberg trial argued that
Great
what they'd
innings
done
comes to
wasn't
an
illegal,
end.
in part
Brilliant
because no
scoring and a
international
very
codes
entertaining
governed
performance.
medical experiment
But gotta
at
go
that
back to
time.
the pavilion now.
This gap disturbed Alexander, so he submitted a memo to Allied prosecutors outlining several principles
They'll push
behind
hard. Should
ethically
get back
sound
to 2.
medical research, especially patient consent. That memo formed the basis of the now famous Nuremberg Code that governs work on human subjects across the globe. After the trial, Alexander returned to
Through the gap.
Boston to
Great
resume
shot.
his medical
A little too
But
much
the
width from the
phenomenon
bowler.
continued.
And it's just put away
He
nice
helped
and
arrange
easy
treatment
square.
for 40
Good
Polish
shot.
prisoners who'd been crippled by Joseph
What a
Mengele.
lovely shot. Really good timing.
And in the
Race to the
1960s,
boundary.
he helped the police solve the infamous Boston Strangler serial killer case. He died of
Edge,
cancer
but
in
it falls safe.
1985.
Big shout from the
Post-war
bowler.
colleague Lou Alexander bet
Super catch.
logical.
That total
Like
just
all
means the bowlers really have got to be on their
But
game.
there's no
Feels
question
they
his
really
most
below
enduring
par score.
contribution to medicine.
Well, we're about to start the last innings and we're not even through day 2 yet. The lead is small
Yet,
and
few
well
people
within
today
reach.
know the man
But
he
after what
claimed,
we've seen over the last few
much
days,
less
I
the
don't
story of how
really
his
want to venture.
frustration in fighting the Nazis inspired him. But if Alexander couldn't ensure justice in his own time, he at least helped secure the rights of those who came later. To learn more, visit samkeen.com/podcast. There, you can find more incredible stories from my books. Would you ever call dinosaurs beautiful? Few of us would, but dinosaur aesthetics is actually a hot field right now in paleontology. In this two-part episode, we're going to examine how the artistic portrayal of dinosaurs has shifted over time. It's a story of princes and goons with sledgehammers, of palaces
alone
and
and
rugby
easily
parties held
through to the
inside dinosaur statues. We'll also examine how those shifts in dinosaur aesthetics have affected and even distorted our view of
Got to follow up that last delivery, found the edge, but
It's
no reward,
undeniably
putting the pressure on the batter.
flat, lifeless bones and resurrect to make creatures run and jump and snap and growl for the first time in millions of years. Paleontology is a real creative act, but there's a risk there as well. Art can overpower us.
Dug that
Some
out
early
well.
blunders in dinosaur art still taint how we view dinosaurs to this day. Dinosaur art can be seductive, certainly, but there's never a seduction without a little bit of danger. I'm Sam Keene, and you're listening to The Disappearing Story, a topsy-turvy, science-y history podcast, where footnotes become the real story.
Didn't like the look of that one and just ignored it.
Fittingly enough, the story of dinosaur beauty began in a rather stunning place, a palace. The Crystal Palace in London astounded the world when it opened in 1850 as part of a World's Fair. All the walls and ceilings were made of pristine glass. People felt like they were walking around inside this. It was a brilliant fusion of art and engineering, and over 6 million people paid a penny a piece.
Drives
to wander
straight down the
around
ground.
inside.
Mid-on will collect that though.
In
End
the
the
fair
over
end,
and none
the
off it.
government couldn't
The
bear
end
to
of the
see
session, we've seen some
it
great
destroyed.
cricket so far. See you
So
soon.
it was
I'm off for a
dismantled
cucumber
by hand
sandwich.
and reconstructed in another
Wood,
part
left-arm
by
pace bowler, is coming on to bowl.
And next to the palace, Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband, decided to establish an outdoor museum full of animal
Paddington End.
sculptures from different eras of Earth's history. Now, what was especially keen to see statues of a newly named order of so-called fearfully
edge.
great lizards, the dinosaurs. But Albert's generosity actually presented a dilemma for science.
Let's see if they can get the ball up
All
into
that
that
scientists
slot.
knew about dinosaurs then came from some scattered bones. and
As
teeth.
before,
They
it's
had no dinosaur skin, no soft tissue, no faces. So what did dinosaurs actually look like? It's a difficult question. Imagine a human face. The most salient features are the nose and the lips and the color of the eyes, none of which you can reconstruct from bones. Or imagine an elephant. A scientist once quipped that if we didn't have elephants alive today as models, we'd probably see fossilized elephant skulls and have no idea they had
a great win, extremely close, right to the end. And to bring the win home like that is really special. What a match we've just witnessed. It went right down to the wire, and the smallest of margins decided it in the end. I think we're going to need a green tea to calm us down after that. Thank you for playing, and we hope to see you again soon.
But especially back then, they had far less material to work with than the Army. There was a real danger of mistakes and distortions. Prince Albert nevertheless wanted his dinosaurs, and the artist who stepped up and took on this responsibility was Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins. Hawkins was a well-known sculptor and wildlife illustrator at that time. He'd done several pictures for Charles Darwin's Voyage of the Beagle, but for him, this was the commission of a lifetime. And not just because it came from Prince Albert. He'd actually be doing pioneering science. There's of course nothing stopping you or me from sculpting some dinosaurs of our own in our backyard. But we've already been exposed to thousands of dinosaur pictures and toys and skeletons in museums. We can't escape that influence, and whatever we've seen before will inevitably color our interpretation now. Hawkins had no such baggage. These were the most dominant animals in the history of Earth. And it fell to him to conjure up the very first 3D renditions of them. To be sure, Hawkins did draw on frogs and lizards as models, and a few prominent scientists advised him during the process. But the final product was his vision, and his vision alone. It's a privilege no one has ever had before, and that no one will ever have again. Hawkins sculpted the beasts from wider clay and cement, and they resembled nothing you'll ever glimpse in nature. They were stout beasts with
Nice.
and less neatly fabric than the rest. One species looked like a crocodile fin fused onto a leathery line. Some species were covered in scales and
Played nice.
spines. And those teeth, big, glistening chompers, just waiting to tear you apart.
You can switch on TV
The
now.
most
It's okay.
impressive aspect of the sculptures was their size. One of them, an iguanodon, stretched 30 feet long. It was hollow inside and roomy enough to fit 20 scientists in it. How do we know this? Because on December 31st, 1853, 20 scientists did in fact cram inside to ring in the new year with a prehistoric themed feast. The invitations for the feast were sent out on imitation pterodactyl, and the scientists hung a chandelier for the occasion. They dined on cod and oyster, on turkey, ham, and pigeon. They smoked up soups and sauces and mayonnaise. They gobbled jelly and pears and plums. They got drunk on sherry and pork. And of course they sang songs. If you had crept close to the iguanodon that winter night and put your ear to its mouth, you wouldn't have heard it hissing or grunting or snarling. This iguanodon grew. All night long, the drunken scientists wailed out old favorites, as well as one ditty penned just for the occasion.
The jolly old beast is now deceased, but there's life in him again. Yes, there's life in him again. Hey!
Now, I made the melody up, but they really did sing those lyrics. All in all, it was a New Year's no one could ever forget. made other creatures for the park as well, ancient crocodiles and mammals. The landscape was a marvel, too. The beast sat on 3 fake islands surrounded by an artificial pool, and punks produced a tide that rose and fell throughout the day. But the dinosaurs were the star. On the first day the park opened, 40,000 people crammed in to see the dinosaurs, paying 5 shillings each, 25 bones today. They were awesome. There's a theory that, psychologically, we're fascinated with dinosaurs because they're both scary and deadly. We get a frisson of fear without any real danger, and Hawkins' beast sure delivered. There's scales and claws and rows of teeth sent quivers up and down the Victorian spine. In fact, park officials quickly ran into an unforeseen problem. People were so mesmerized by the teeth that they started wading out to the islands and stealing, yanking them right out of the dinosaurs' heads. Not even the Crystal Palace could compete with the sublime appeal of this terrible creature. Every city in the world was jealous of Hawkins' menagerie, but none more so than New York. In the mid-1800s, New York needed what we call now a rebranding effort. The city had a reputation as a crass, money-grubbing Gomorrah. Compared to Philadelphia or Boston, NYC lacked refinement and culture. It was the Las Vegas of its day. So, city leaders decided to go highbrow and build a dinosaur museum in their new Central Park. A glass and cast iron building with a huge arched roof, America's very own Crystal Palace. They would call it the Paleozoic Museum. In a coup, the officials secured Benjamin Hawkins himself to make the dinosaurs. Like the London Park, Hawkins would set the sculptures on an island amid tropical greenery. But unlike the London Park, the Paleozoic Museum would showcase American animals only. Officials requested huge fishes, enormous birds, giant sloths, mastodons, and other ponderous, uncouth mammals, and of course, plenty of dinosaurs. Hawkins arrived in the United States in 1870 to study fossils in Philadelphia and Washington for inspiration, and inspired he was. He was especially taken with what are now called dryptosaurs, ferocious carnivores that stretch 25 feet long. He envisioned a scene with a dryptosaur attacking and killing a duck-billed dinosaur. 2 other dryptosaurs would be devouring a second victim in the background. Hawkins quickly rented a workshop in New York to get started. Meanwhile, city officials hired crews to start digging the Paleozoic Museum's foundations near Central Park's southwest corner. Everything was going swimming. Hawkins was convinced that the scene with the dryptosaurs would surpass even his Crystal Palace creations. It had depth and drama, nature red in tooth and claw. It would be his masterpiece. And it might well have been, if not for one unforeseen punishment. William Boss Tweed. Spark something uncommon this holiday season, with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is good, but Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful, with incredible, hand-picked gifts that spark joy, wonder, and delight for everyone on your list. Uncommon Goods scours the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable items. Science lovers can find the Experiment a Day Science Advent Calendar, or spinning topological globes of Mars and the Moon. There's periodic table-themed seasons, petri dish earrings, and more. Plus, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you are supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/spoon. That's uncommongoods.com/spoon for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. Boss Tweed was something of an uncouth mammal himself, a rotund political machine boss who was arguably the most crooked politician in New York's history, which is saying something. He and his cronies stole at least $30 million from the coffers of New York over his career, possibly up to $200 million. That's $5 billion today. And it was Tweed's belief that New York became the result. The museum's construction budget was just $300,000, a rounding error for corporate story. He nevertheless demanded his time, one pencil, and he was furious when the museum construction crews refused to pay picnic. In a deft bureaucratic move, he quickly consolidated several New York park boards into one two-man team. And wouldn't you know, but 2 lackey whistles filled both seats. The lackeys immediately halted construction, and when that didn't lead to kickbacks either, they had the museum's foundation demolished. Hawkins was shocked. I mean, he knew New York was a little rough and tumble, but this was downright disastrous. He kept working on the dinosaur statues and hoping he could sell them to the Smithsonian. But the more he thought about Tweed and Foley, the more fear he had. So in March 1871, he began speaking. He publicly denounced Tweed and his henchmen for their attacks on art and science in the city of New York. They must have felt good to unload on Tweed, real. But Hawkins realized he was in this. Tweed didn't take kindly to public ridicule, and he retaliated in classic New York political machine fashion. That is to say, a few weeks later, several goons of Tweed's broke into Hawkins' studio and smashed his sculptures with sledgehammers. And to make double sure that Hawkins never worked in New York again, the goons broke in a second time a few weeks later and smashed all his work. According to different accounts, the remains were either buried in Central Park or dumped into a pit. Hawkins' masterpiece was the museum dad and his arch enemy had disgusted Hawkins. The experience had confirmed every bad stereotype he had about crafts and food in New York. His Crystal Palace animals can still be seen in London 150 years later. But we can all blame Boss Tweed for the fact that no Hawkins dinosaur stalked a single person. Even though his masterpiece got Hawkins was quite influential. He made sculptures and drawings of many other dinosaurs over his lifetime. And while scientists revised their views on certain details, the initial vision of dinosaurs that Hawkins and his advisors portrayed would dominate paleontology for the next century plus. According to this view, dinosaurs were thick-limbed, thick-witted, dumb, lumbering beasts with tiny skulls and vacant eyes, little more than giant lizards. Only gradually, over many decades, has this view of dinosaurs proceeded. Only gradually have we come to realize that dinosaurs differed from modern lizards in many ways. Much of the evidence for this new view of dinosaurs comes from, of all things, their legs. Most reptiles have sprawling limbs that jut out almost horizontally from their sides. Think lizards and crocodiles. Reptiles that are built like this run into trouble with their lungs. When most reptiles run, they have to twist side to side. This squeezes their lungs and prevents fresh air from entering. As a result, many reptiles can't run and breathe at the same time, which severely limits how fast and how far they can run in one stretch. Hawkins' dinosaurs showed this trait as well. And since reptiles built this way
I was not listening on it, what they were saying.
Dinosaurs
मैं
were
बोलना
But starting in the 1960s, scientists took a closer look at the angles at which dinosaur legs and hips fit together. And they realized that many dinosaurs had legs more like pillars, positioned beneath, legs more like mammals. And if these dinosaurs had legs like mammals, they probably moved like mammals too, able to sprint or roam from life. This fact has neurological implications as well. Reptiles don't need fancy neuromuscular systems. They rarely run far, and because their bellies almost scrape the ground, it's hard for them to tip over. Mammals can move, and we're far more spry and agile when we run. This in turn requires bigger, faster brains to coordinate movement and keep their balance. By that same logic, dinosaur brains were probably bigger than most expected as well. Other evidence implies that some dinosaurs were warm-blooded and cared for their young, too. The more you look at the overall behaviors of dinosaurs, the less that they resemble lizards, and the more that they resemble, well, us. Although paleontologists still disagree about many of these issues, by the 1980s, most of them had abandoned their view of dinosaurs as big, drowsy reptiles. They were spry and agile instead, less quantity, more velocity. Several biologists have even suggested that if planet Earth had avoided the asteroid that wiped out most dinosaurs 65 million years ago, then dinosaurs might have evolved someday into intelligent, tool-using creatures with culture and technology, just like we do. Jim Morrison's lizard brain might have been real. So why did it take scientists so long to see what dinosaurs were really like? Well, for one thing, especially in the 1800s, they were often working with fragmentary remains. It was very difficult. But partly, I think, it's because of the pictures and stuff
Doktor robi.
Nie wiem, a co tak się robi?
No, ale lekko, nie wiem.
No nie wiem, no I am just chilling, sitting, no.
Watch along or no?
You can watch, yeah, actually. Waiting for you.
What's wrong?
Checking processors. What was it, Robbie?
Dobra, nic mi polecę, to mamy zobaczyć. Nie. No. Nie. Proszę mi przeczytać. It's not like both towers and this tower is going to fall. It's going to fall.
This is the best.
And this has flower towers. This.
I'll take the bathroom.
I'll take the bathroom. You take this because
Okay, I don't know to fall. Now that's why I'm saying I'll better take the
So
bathroom.
very good. You will get to know to hold. It's in our menu also. Just half.
How to fold them? Like this?
Just like this, yeah. Oh yeah, not nice. So what?
Your eyes are not changing because of this?
Embroidery?
Yeah.
No, I would say.
Yeah. 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 Like that.
But yet, honestly, there was no more.
Obviously not more. I was honestly not planning to watch anything. No, it's okay. I went out, I got a bit more energetic.
That's what I'm thinking. You do this new movement and maybe even just open the window for a moment.
Because of cold, I got
Then you will feel much better. And you're sitting. Don't stop your life. No, recently I was more to kitchen in between, but otherwise, and you know how it felt. Oh, so good.